Welcome to the Slow Goods Podcast. I'm your host, Logan Ratcliffe at the Rope Company, and today we have with us Liz Senders from Once a Tree, our local great retailer that's a partner with the Rope Company here in Camden, Maine, and just so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming. Liz, I would love if you could just kind of introduce what is Once a Tree and share a little bit of Once a Tree's story, kind of how it became to be, right?
Okay, I'd love to. So Once a Tree has been in business for 41 years. It was started in 1983 in Camden by the previous owner, Bernice Berger, and her then husband. It was down on Bayview Street near the waterfront for many, many years. And then the space opened up on Main Street, and she took that, I think, about 16 years ago.
Okay.
So we've been in the current location for a long time, although many people still remember shopping at the Bayview Street location. I actually worked there when I was, I think, about 15 for one summer. Little did I know, a bunch of years later, I'd end up owning it. But Bernice was a family friend.
Okay.
And so I always spent time with her, always knew about the store. And then she started thinking she wanted to sell it in maybe 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband and I had another business at the time, and my husband's an engineer. So we really thought, I'm not sure how we could add something else to the plate with two kids as well.
Mm-hmm.
However, we were definitely intrigued because it's such a great business.
Mm-hmm.
We both love the products that Once a Tree sells. My husband's family had owned furniture stores way back in the day, really nice Scandinavian furniture.
Oh, cool.
So he was attracted to the idea of having a store with some nice wood products.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an art gallery, so I've always been very interested in, aesthetics and how things work together, and definitely comfortable with selling things to visitors and locals as well. So we were intrigued, but just not sure how we could make it work. However, time went on and we kind of started to discuss with Bernice, and we kind of started realizing we might be able to make it work. And we were excited about it, which, the idea was exciting, and we thought it might be worth really pursuing. So, we ended up closing on, I think, one of the first days, maybe even January 2nd of 2020, of course, not knowing what was about to come.
Right.
So it ended up being quite a memorable first year.
Right.
And I am very relieved we're over that, the pandemic mostly, and it took us a while to really kind of find our stride at first because it was just such a weird year.
Yeah.
And we were just getting to know the store, the staff, all that, and then had a pandemic on top of it all. But,
right. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So I want to hear more about the store, but before I forget, I would love to hear a little more on your gallery and the Scandinavian furniture with your husband. Yeah, that
I
sounds
don't
cool.
know that much. It was when he was very small. His parents had, I think, a couple of furniture stores.
Really? Where was that?
I think New Jersey.
Okay.
I'm a little sketchy on the details, but his mom still talks about some of their trips over to Scandinavia, buying trips, and we actually still have a few pieces from the store in our house, and it's simple, almost Shaker-esque, some of it.
Okay.
Just beautiful wood, interesting designs, but not complicated or elaborate, simple beauty. And clearly all these years later, we're still using some of it. So it's stuff that just lasts.
Yeah.
And then the art gallery, my parents started in 1984. So they had moved to Maine with the idea. They were both teachers, but they had the intent of starting an art gallery because it was, I think, more my dad's dream. But my mom also really enjoyed the businessy side of things. So they started the art gallery, and I grew up with them owning that. And then
that was in Camden?
That was in Camden,
okay.
And they started that just a year after Bernice started Once a Tree. So that's kind of how my mom and Bernice became friends.
Sure.
Because they were both starting businesses in the community and got very involved with the community, the business community, and the downtown. And so taking over my parents' gallery was always an option, but it took me It took me a while to warm up to it just because I knew I wanted to go out and kind of do my own thing before I came back to Camden.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Camden and I'm so happy to live there now, but I definitely needed to test out other parts of the world, other parts of the country before I really wanted to come back when it was a decision, not just because it was what was expected or the only option I had.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a bit, but I finally realized it was at least worth a shot. And as it turns out, I really love owning a business. So I think in 2008 is when I moved back from California and started taking over the gallery. And I think I ended up feeling like it was an even better fit than I thought it would be. So that was exciting. And then I sold the gallery at the end of 2021.
Mm-hmm. So you had both there for
I did have both for 2 years. And the first year was the pandemic year. And then the second year, 2021, was an unusual year because it got very, very busy in Camden. But we were all working with pretty much skeleton crews and keeping all the COVID procedures in place. And so
it's a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah. And I just kept feeling like I love both these businesses so much, but I cannot be two places at once, as well as
and have kids
and
or do anything
a family. So I felt very spread thin. As much as I didn't want to be, it was just I just was spread thin.
Yeah, I totally understand. I had to, I decided because I was lobstering too. So
okay.
Just as like,
there's
I can't be the husband and father I want to be and do all this.
There's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
And some of them you have to sleep some of them.
Yes, sometimes.
Yeah.
We have a 7-month-old, so sometimes there's just times where you're a little bit slower.
Yeah.
It seems like. So well that's really exciting. So you were telling us more. So how you have the store.
Yes.
And things are going.
Yes.
Let's say you get through the pandemic. So like now you're in your groove.
Yes. Definitely feel like we're in the groove.
Good. And so I will say Liz's store, Once a Tree, is beautiful.
Thank you.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. I'll let you tell more about it, but just from my perspective, there's, lots of wood, lots of stone.
Yes.
And, those natural, awesome, timeless materials.
Yes.
And just quality items with a story. So, what would you add to that, or how would you just, really explain the store and what's special about it?
Yeah. So the concept was, I believe, Bernice and her then husband had a young son. And I think the concept was they were, I think, even making toys for him. And I think the concept was to open a store where literally everything was Once a Tree, all wood products, all handcrafted locally. And of course it grew from there, or as we say at the store, it branched out.
Nice.
Because it's a cool concept, but we also live in coastal Maine where we have a lot of people visiting. So I believe she started catering to people from away as well as locals. And that is still super important to us today, to have something that local people enjoy coming in and shopping for. And we certainly want to be a store that people are excited to shop at when they're visiting from wherever they're visiting from. So it's a nice balance of both, I think. And so, a lot of stone and wood actually work really well together aesthetically. Copper actually works really well in the store. We have a lot of products that are a copper wood blend.
Oh, cool.
Another, natural product or material, and it just kind of works really well. It's like the tones work well with wood.
Yes, they do.
And then we do have a fair amount of jewelry too.
Right.
Lots of Maine jewelers and a nice range of price points. So jewelry was an easy one, I think, for the store to add because it doesn't take up a lot of space, and it's something people love to give and get.
Right.
So that was kind of a natural fit. And we do also try to have some more fun items in the store. So like games and, maybe sillier things. But one thing we always kind of come back to, especially when I'm trying to add something new, is does it have a function as well as form? So we kind of want all of our beautiful bowls are also meant to be used. And like your beautiful doormats obviously are meant to be used and last. So that's really important too, that something might make you smile, but you want to be using it in another, few years as well as
right.
just bought it and then forgot about it.
The form and function.
Yeah.
What is the kind of mix on, locals versus tourists in the season? How does that kind of play out for you guys?
So all year we have local people coming in, especially for gift buying.
Gift buying.
We
okay.
do gift wrap. We make things look great. We do not charge for it. And so I know that's a big reason people are shopping at the store is
and
because...
you have an awesome team.
Thank you.
They're
Yeah.
super nice.
They are amazing. My 3 full-time year-round staff, they have actually been at the store for 2 of them 10 years and 1 of them 20 years. So I am the new person in that group. And I feel so fortunate. And then our summer crew are actually all returning. So they're now in college, but I have 4 young women who this past summer was at least their 3rd season, and they'll be back for the holidays too. So I feel so lucky. So locals are coming in for gifts. That's a lot of the reason why I'm seeing locals, or they have purchased like maybe a rental, or they've redesigned their house and they need some new things for the house. But in the summer, it is more often like on a day, it's more definitely the percentage of people not from Camden or Maine is much higher than the percentage who are.
Sure.
And so it's a lot of people, we love talking to people. So we've got people from all over the country, the world, and so it's fun. And someone local walks in, we're like, oh, hey, like, what are you doing here kind of thing. And then it shifts. So then, one thing I love about December is I love the energy in the store because it's fun with leading up to the holidays, but it's also almost entirely local people.
Yeah.
And I always feel so supported by the community in December, especially because it's like, wow, I'm seeing all these people that I know, some of them well, some of them more of an acquaintance. And it's just really fun to like be down there and sometimes having a super quick interaction and sometimes a little bit longer because there's time. And it's a really fun, and I love that the proportion totally shifts parts of the year.
The summer people that usually are they also buying mostly for gifts, or is it souvenirs?
More, yeah.
Or you don't really, like, I guess you kind of have some souvenirs, but is it?
Yeah, that's a mix. I feel like some people, when they're on their trip, they're definitely shopping for. We get a lot of people actually shopping for like the pet sitter or the person who's holding down the fort at home, and they want to bring something back for that person.
Okay.
Other people love to buy stuff thinking ahead to the holidays, but from their trip, so then they can give the gift at the holidays and say, we bought this when we were in Camden, Maine. And
cool.
so even though the item isn't overtly Camden, Maine, it was bought in Camden, Maine.
Yeah, it has story to it.
Yes, exactly. But a lot of times people actually are shopping because I think sometimes when people go on vacation, they give themselves permission to spend a little money that maybe they don't always give themselves at home. And it's like, oh, I'll be able to, I've been wanting something like this and I bought it in Camden and it'll remind me of my trip.
Which one of those people, or what time of year are they kind of buying, bigger items versus smaller? Or does that matter?
It is a mix. So every day, one of the things I love looking at is like the daily sales report, and it is just so much fun to see the range. It is a little bit of everything. Of course, we have some items in the store that are kind of like the best sellers or the standouts, but it is such a mix of price points and items. And I think we also pride ourselves on being a store with something for everyone, and that includes the range of price points as well as the range of items.
Sure. Yeah. So that makes me think of a good question. How do you play the, or how do you decide on, quality versus price and story, and like, how do you find that kind of balance?
Well, luckily we don't really have to set prices because it's really important to me that from store to store, prices are pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
And when people shop online. So we pretty much just fall into line with, unless we're the only people selling something, we would just generally fall into line with what other people charge.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, I just think that's important these days that people, when they shop around, they're seeing, you don't want to buy something for $25 and then see it for $15 somewhere else.
Right. So you have a pretty good feel of what's going on around you and online and everything.
Yeah. And we just follow some pretty basic, margins of we paid this much for it and we need to then charge this much.
But
for
when
it.
you decide on what products to have, is it, where you want to have that big range, if it can, sometimes if things are lower priced, the quality might not be as good, but it depends how big it is and everything else. So how do you kind of feel out, decide on, those lines? You know what I mean? Or is it just to feel like, this is the kind of...
Yeah, I really do try to have everything in the store be good quality. I never want... Whenever I'm looking at something and I ask myself, like, would I be kind of embarrassed to sell this? And if the answer is yes, it's a no, because I never want to be selling something I don't feel good about people walking away with. Inexpensive items, it kind of depends. You can find some nice quality inexpensive items. We have a line of jewelry. It's made in they're based in New Hampshire, but they have connections with India and Thailand. And the owner has met the craftspeople in those countries. And the quality is actually really excellent.
Yeah.
But the price point is really, really good. So we sell a ton of this line of jewelry because it's sterling silver and it's really nice, but it's very affordable.
Yeah, that's really neat that they know that and they've been over there and seen all the...
Yeah, it feels good. It feels much better than, oh, this looks good and we have no idea.
Right. I love that, though. Your question, you ask yourself, would I be... Did you say...
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah. And I feel like we all need that some kind of question to ask ourselves. Or
yeah. And then I always ask myself, like, will this product add something new to our selection in an interesting way? And if it's just repeating what we're already doing, then why bring it in? We do have a lot of items in the store, so it's really important that every item is kind of doing something, or else it really is just adding kind of clutter to...
Right. Yeah, be intentional.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's great because you're leading right into these things I want to talk about. So how do you decide? I get you probably already talked a little bit about it, but like, what's the process of when you, do want to? How do you decide when you want to add new, or if you add new? Is there like so much of the store you want to turn over every year, type of thing? And don't give any secrets away.
Yeah.
But any kind of general things, that people would think would be interesting. Yeah.
So every year, well, I kind of always have a list, both in my head and literally a list at my desk at home of areas where I feel like there's room to add something. And so I'm and then it's kind of ranked by like importance. So I have a couple areas where I'm like, well, that would be cool to add, a new something glass, some beautiful pieces of glass that could almost be like, not a showstopper, but a bit of a catch your eye as you walk in the store.
So when you say areas, do you mean physical spots in the location?
Sometimes I'm thinking about physical spots, like in this case.
Or a product category you're missing?
A little bit of both, because like with this glass example, I have literally been thinking about an area of the store where I wouldn't mind a little bit of a change, and something really with a bit of a wow factor would be perfect, and bringing in a material that you're not seeing a lot of in the store.
Right.
But that's not super critical. Then I have some areas where I either know that a vendor I'm working with is maybe heading toward retirement, or we're starting to, like, the interest in a certain item is starting to taper off, and I'm thinking, okay, I need I need to get kind of active about finding something that will slowly take this place.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other categories where I'm like, we are so good in that category. Like something really compelling would have to come along for me to add something new. Because when you add something new, you're inevitably creating competition for other things in that category.
Right.
And if we're already doing really well with somebody, a vendor, I don't really want to make their sales, like my overall sales might look the same, but their sales, my orders with them might decrease a bit. And I don't want to do that to them unless there's kind of a need to,
Right.
or a reason to, or it's just the natural trend.
Plus probably your current, like your staples in the store.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what makes, almost the foundation of Once a Tree, let's say.
Yeah.
And people might expect that.
Right. So
type of
that's
thing.
another thing that we're always trying to find the balance of, because we do have people coming in year after year or sometimes month after month. And I want them to both be excited about what they see in the store. So some new things for them to be excited about, but it should still look and feel like the store they know and love. And that was kind of important to us when we bought the store.
Mm-hmm.
Was we didn't want to reinvent Once a Tree because Once a Tree is already a thriving, great business that people love. We just wanted to add our own embellishments and reorganization a bit. And so the same kind of concept with when people come back, next summer, I do want to have some new things that myself and the staff are really excited for people to see and shop. But I don't want to get rid of the staples or I think of them as like Once a Tree classics. Like
Right. That's a great way to put it. I love that. Yeah. We have, a lot of our retailers and partners will say, like, I don't know, they'll just tell us like, we're the spot that people come to get the Rope Company doormats.
Mm-hmm.
Like because we just try to have one spot and one good spot in every geographic location. And like a lot of designers will come to them because they have a well curated space, and they like come like, this is where I come to get these doormats for my clients or whatever. So,
and you don't want to let that person down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's so you have your staples, and it is kind of like the foundation. It's really neat to hear. So what's the biggest difference you feel like since Bernice had the store? What change have you kind of brought?
So we opened up the back of the store up visually.
Right.
When
that.
One good thing
That's
about
nice.
the pandemic was we were closed for 2 months. And so we were able to there was carpeting in the second half of the store, the back. And we knew ideally we wanted to get rid of that, but we thought, well, when would we ever, this was before the pandemic. We were like, well, when would we ever actually find the time? Maybe next winter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when the store was closed, my husband and a friend, we moved everything up to the front of the store, and then he ripped up the carpeting and put down Maine white pine floors to kind of match. Well, it's not really a match with what's in the front of the store, but it looks good with what's in the front of the store. And the white pine is a little bit brighter. So just by doing that, the back of the store was brightened up, and I actually painted the walls. They had been a sage green, which you can still see in some areas of the store, the front, but we changed all the walls to white. So the back of the store, when you first walk in the store, it just looks brighter back there. And then we also we kind of just redid the way the shelving was and got rid of some freestanding display structures that were blocking it. So it's just more open in the back. And I think we're enjoying that. And visually, I think it looks really good. And then just kind of
so people can see, you can see the Camden Harbor, right?
You can
see that
yeah.
well too, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful.
The Camden Harbor.
Our real dream is to someday have like French doors that would open, and there's a back deck that we have a door to, but it's off the sales floor.
The deck's already there.
The deck's already there, but I don't think I'm not sure it's up to code for like people. Like it would require some discussions with the landlord and probably some different insurance, but ideally we would love to have the doors be able to open and people to be able to go out there and stand for a minute and enjoy the view. It's so pretty. And then, we just kind of reorganized things. I think just kind of with our fresh eyes, we were able to see certain things and and phase a few things out that we didn't think were a perfect fit for the store. But nothing super dramatic.
I'm sure. Yeah. You try
Yeah.
to keep that base
Yeah.
you're talking about, but is there like a favorite item you've brought in?
Oh, that
or
we've
anything like
added.
that? Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot actually. Some really incredible woodworkers. This one guy makes cutting boards that I absolutely love. Unfortunately, he's heading to retirement, so the batch we have are like the last ones we're going to have
Wow.
from him. But Harvey Reams, absolutely gorgeous cutting boards, so memorable. And then, well, you're putting me on the spot now because I'm going to list a few, and then I'm sure I'm going to forget so many.
Wow. You don't
But
you know,
some
I don't think anybody
really
will
nice
be offended.
jewelers. Yeah, beautiful jewelers. We've added, and some other things that I wouldn't have thought were going to hit so well, but they did. This one line of recycled water bottles. They're cloths, like kind of working to replace paper towels, but it's called Once Again Home. And they just look and feel really great, but they're also really useful. So again, the form and function. There have been a lot. I think this was our 5th year. So every year we've added numerous products. So yeah.
Is there any kind of number like you try to stick to? Hey, we want to add 10% new every, or is it just?
I don't
just feel
really think like that. We have over 100 vendors. So 10% actually probably is about right when I think about it. We're probably bringing in 10, at least 10-ish new companies or vendors every year. And then some of them also phase out for one reason or another.
Fair.
So there's always that flow. But yeah, I never really quite think of it like that. It's more, I have the store divided into categories. And when I see an area that has a little bit of weakness, I'm like, okay, we definitely want to bolster that section a bit.
Yeah. And in a store, you only have so much space. It's almost like the space, is not it's
precious.
Very valuable. But yeah, precious is a great word.
And we've tried to amp up the kitchen section too, because Camden does not have a kitchen store.
Oh, right.
So
there's not many actually in Maine.
Yeah, there's some great ones in Belfast, Bath, but we really wanted to amp up that section a bit with limited space, but we really are very intentional about the gadgets. People actually really enjoy shopping for kitchen gadgets. So we try to have some nice gadgets and unusual gadgets, like pickle pinchers and zesters and, little things that people are really excited to find.
Yeah.
And then I want people to think of us as a kitchen store, even though we're not going to be like the all end all, because we just don't have that kind of room.
Are most of your items are they made fairly locally?
Yeah, well, truthfully, there's items from all over the world, but we certainly try to highlight, the local, closer to Maine, New England woodworkers. We've been doing really well with a guy from Rockland, and he makes a bunch of things: bowls, pizza wheels, ice cream scoops, cutting boards. He has a few prototypes of exciting boards we're really excited about for next year. But his ice cream scoop is like, we just were looking at the numbers. It's like our second most sold item in the store.
Wow. That's so cool.
And it's a really fun item. And
you get the wood and you get the kitchen there.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's a fun gift and a good price point. So, his story is he's just a local guy who also leads fishing trips and is a woodworker. So, he's a younger guy. So,
He leads fishing trips?
Leads fishing trips. Yeah. Like he takes people out fishing.
My family guide?
Yeah. So my family went with him a couple years ago, and I had never caught
striper fishing.
Yeah,
okay.
And we caught some really big fish. None of them were actually big enough to keep, but it felt like they were huge.
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. So
he's a younger guy?
Great guy. Yeah, he's a great guy, and it's exciting that I was so pleased to show him the data yesterday that his scoops are like our second most sold item in the store.
Yeah.
And then I'd be remiss not to mention Lisa Holt. She's from Camden.
I've heard that.
A retired elementary teacher she taught at Hope for years. And she does the pebble art.
Okay.
And it's in little frames, and she finds, sea glass and pebbles, and then turns it into, her compositions are often with, it looks like a little family, or it looks like birds, or like a little sailboat. It's simple, but she really can like convey quite a lot of meaning in this little pebble art, and she's local, and her story is great because she's a lovely person and a retired teacher, but also there are knockoffs out there,
Right.
like
Of course.
it's made in China, and it's like, come on, like Lisa's right here. And so we're really proud to carry her work, and that's one of our top selling items.
So she literally sits there pebble by pebble and puts these together by herself.
And it's incredible because she'll, with just like 2 pebbles and a little bit of drawing, and it's like, I could have never seen that's that pebble could turn into that cute little scene. So her eye, she just has a very good artistic eye, and cool. She's great to work with.
Yeah, the creative.
So I don't know if I'm really answering your question about the story, but
I think people find that
we just really enjoy. And Lisa's been at Once a Tree longer than me. Like we just really enjoy working with some of these. Yeah. We've gotten to know a lot of these people really well over the years.
Sure. What I'm assuming wood is the most popular material, or
probably wood, but a lot of things are, like I was saying, that wood, like either a wood, most often I guess the wood and copper combo. We've got lamps and sculptures and many things in the store that are kind of that combo, and it works well. But wood is probably the most common material.
Coppers. So when people are in the store and they're just like, maybe they're not asking you guys questions, but you just hear them chatting, like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of compliments on the store, which is awesome, either right directly to us, or I will hear, you can actually hear people when they walk in. And I don't think people always know that, but I'll hear people say, just yesterday, someone said this, she's like, oh, I love this store. We got to go in this store. It's my favorite store. Oh, cool. And we'll hear that. Like, so someone will be kind of showing their group or the person, their companion, like kind of excited to like bring them in. And that feels really good to hear people say that. And we hear like people will sometimes split up in the store, and then they'll find each other, and it'll be like, oh, you found something. And sometimes you'll hear surprise in the person's voice because, say, it's someone who doesn't usually get into shopping.
Right.
And so we'll hear kind of like oh, what did you find? And I love that too, because it's clear that both people are kind of excited about like that they're both having a positive experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That'd be me over there in the corner. I'm usually just with my business eye thinking everything over. Or I'm like, I go into a store, I'm very purposeful usually. Yeah. Even on vacation, I'm like, I'm going here and I'm getting this item. Yeah. I'm walking out. I love shopping, but I'm like, I don't know where to stop if I start buying things.
I know. You could probably analyze all the different kinds of shoppers.
But yeah, when I find something, I'm like, oh man, check this. I think my wife's surprised. And Hannah, Hannah can spend 3 hours. And she just wants to sit there and really like look at these things and it's just so cool to like watch her and see how she appreciates and what she thinks of. She's a creative too, so she just is like, she loves doing crafts. Like, how can I make this? And I'm just very like functional and going forward. So kind of a good combo. Sometimes I just got to walk over to the next store.
Yeah.
Start looking.
Let her do her thing and you move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I love is, this just happened yesterday too. So a couple was in the store a few days ago, and I know one of them. So I said hello and met his significant other, and they were just kind of walking around. I think they had a little time to kill, actually. So they weren't even really there for any reason, but they were just wandering around, and it was a beautiful day. And then he came back yesterday without her because, he bought something and we gift wrapped it for Christmas. So he's going to surprise her because that will happen a lot, is that people are unknowing to the one person, but the second person is kind of watching to see what the first person.
Man, those are wise people.
Yes, totally. And because, if you have someone in your life that's hard to buy for, one great trick is go with them in a store and watch what they are commenting on or spending time looking at or loving. And then you sneak back and kind of pick that up. And it's really thoughtful and kind of makes it a little bit easier when it does come time to give them a gift. It's going to be a hit, and it shows how thoughtful you were. And I love being part of moments like that.
Yeah, that's a great experience. Hannah, I feel like whenever Hannah points something out, it's like springtime and it's like a Christmas type gift. And I'm like, man, I'm going to remember that.
Yep. Well, you can
I
make a
pretend
little
like I don't
list.
even pay attention. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And I do. I need to have a list going.
Yep, get a list
I need
going.
a lot of different lists. The problem with my lists are I need to look at them.
Yes,
Or
that is true.
calendars or anything like that, So that's what people are just commenting as they're going around. What do people mostly just ask you guys? What are they coming up?
Where to have lunch?
Where to have lunch?
Yeah. We get that question so many times a day. I need to have like a little flyer I can hand out, but
yeah.
Actually, we do have like all the menus behind this counter so that we can be helpful if people need more help. But seriously, people often ask functional questions like how to care for their wood products or if the ceramics can go in the dishwasher. So some kind of like more like basic questions. Or they're asking for help honing in on the right item as a gift.
Mm-hmm. So they'll just, I don't know about, what do you think about this? So, I mean,
well, they'll kind of describe the recipient to us.
Right.
Give us an idea of what
That's
they
true, because it's so
like.
gift-centered. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we kind of try to help them find what they're looking for.
Right. So that's what you're really getting when you come into Once a Tree or some other place that is really special like you guys, like where your team has been there for 10 or 20 years and you've have good style and taste, people like that's a special curation gift that like you can go there and really get a fantastic opinion, like I don't know what I'm doing here, here's the person, and like if I came in there to ask, I would also know like you've done this with a lot of other people.
Right.
And
yeah,
so,
we know what's popular.
Yeah, we know, hey, that type of person likes this. We heard so a million times.
We know what lands well, yeah.
No, that's really cool. So I think you talked about we talked about like how you go through the process a little bit of, how to find a new item. And the decision-making process on that. Was there anything else? Or maybe talk a little more on that. Like, is it a feel thing? Well, you did say it was, certain areas you're missing out on. Is there anything else? Or maybe like how to keep things as you're deciding? How do you make sure they stay unique? I guess.
Yes. Well, we do prefer not to overlap with other places right in Camden if possible, which is why I appreciate what you said about try to find one spot in each location that can carry your mats. Because it just is boring for people shopping if they just see it makes the items look less special.
Right.
But it's also just kind of boring to go from one store to the next and see the same things as a shopper. And then we're just competing with each other more. But you can really get inside your head with trying to decide what will be successful. And I actually have kind of recently gotten a little more laid back about it because the truth is you just don't always know,
right?
No matter how many years you've been doing it. And so I try not to obsess over like, well, I like this, but are people going to like it? It's like you just sometimes have to try it.
Right.
And you'll learn a lesson either way. And luckily we have enough items in the store that if I do try something that doesn't work, other things can kind of pick up the slack from from that kind of miss. And then chances are something else will be a hit beyond my anticipation. So I really just try to you can't just choose what you like. I mean, it can't just be a store of Liz's favorite things, but it has to be like, I'm always kind of thinking like, will I feel good about selling this item? It might not be my favorite item, but will I feel good about selling it?
Okay. Yeah.
And letting people walk away with it. And so the answer should always be yes.
Right.
And then do I think this will resonate with enough people? And do I think that myself and the staff can talk about it knowledgeably and with enthusiasm? Because people do detect when, if an entire staff is not feeling something, it's going to come across when people are trying to shop for it.
For sure.
And
so do you get their opinion before you pull a trigger on
sometimes, yes, I really appreciate the opinion of the ladies there because they've been there a long time and they all have excellent taste.
Right.
and they're all really good at merchandising. So that's another thing you have to think about is this item is so cool, but how are we going to show it in the store?
Right.
And so if they, they will sometimes be like, okay, like they can sometimes play that out before we've even pulled the trigger. And
Right.
if we kind of have a good plan for something, like how we'll make it work, it feels really better to pull the trigger on it than if we're like, oh God, where would we even put this in the store?
Right. Yeah.
So I really enjoy the process. It's a lot of, I can kind of overthink things for sure. But it's also really interesting to try to think things through and then get the results. Like it's really fun. It's very satisfying when something you kind of played out, said, I think this is going to do really well. And then it does. It's like, yes, like
right.
I've nailed it. And then, the opposite can happen too, which is always kind of like, I find it kind of funny actually. But
yeah, the challenge and the hunt. It just makes me think of, when I was lobstering, I love, there's some guys that set traps and they just haul the same string over and over again all year. They'll move it a little bit, for the fall or something. But like I shifted every day a lot. I love chasing lobsters and trying to stay ahead of the game. That was my favorite part, was fishing. But yeah, sometimes you go set that in that spot and you come back and they're like, well, there's lobsters everywhere and I'm all by myself. This is exciting. Or it's just, there's nothing.
Yeah,
there's a reason there's nobody else here. Yeah, this is, that was brutal. But yeah, it's probably, and that probably is around, if it's 10% or whatever it is. But as things come and go, but that just came into my head. So I was just asking everybody I love asking everybody on the team that's right here, like, hey, what questions would you ask? And one of the people, Harmony, was telling about her father-in-law. I think they're from Virginia. They come up once every year or two, and they always want to come to Once a Tree. And she said that, there was this butter container or something, we couldn't think of the right term, that he even wanted, and while he was in Virginia called to order it or something like that. So I don't know, what do you think people come to expect from Once a Tree? And how do you kind of keep it unique, I guess?
Yeah.
Or what makes it unique?
People come to expect the form and function, for sure. And so, shopping for a butter bell, I think, or a butter keeper or whatever. You could buy a really boring one off Amazon, but it's like a lot more fun, I think, to buy a nicely made one from, a Maine potter that is going to look great in your kitchen and came from a store that you enjoy supporting. So yeah, I think people come to expect a vast selection, and with a local spin whenever possible.
Right. No, it's great. Yeah, I was going to say a vast selection of quality items with like natural materials, or
I think so. I mean, if anything, I think sometimes I don't know if the word's complaint, but something I know for some people, the store can be overwhelming because we have a lot
There's a
in
lot
there.
in there, yeah.
And people will go around twice and then they'll be like, I didn't see this item. And we'll be like, oh yeah, we show them where it is. And I'm like, oh my God, how did I not see it?
Yeah,
I was around the store twice and it's like, well, there's a lot in here.
That's why Hannah can spend 3 hours, because she won't miss them.
Yeah.
She'll take their time and slowly
and
go
people
through
do. Like people sometimes will be in this store for a very long time, and sometimes they'll buy something and sometimes they won't. And I think it's kind of a compliment when someone can spend a long time in the store and be entertained, even if it's just for the, whatever they're doing.
Definitely.
So yeah, I mean, that's what I hope everybody thinks about the store.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when you're in the day to day, you're not always necessarily thinking of those types of questions,
Yeah.
And so what do you? This is probably the same answer, but what do you hope when people walk through that door and they walk? When they walk in, what do you want them to think? And when they walked out, what do you want them to think? Like?
Well, I want them to be feel good about being there. So the vibe of the store should be friendly and interesting, I guess.
It
like,
definitely is.
They
especially
want
with
to
their
like
team.
explore. Yes. And we all really want people to feel like everyone was professional and knowledgeable, and that the packaging and the wrapping, and we really take pride in that. And I want people to leave kind of like, we do have an online store, so I want people to be excited to explore when they get home. I want people to feel like, oh, I can't wait to go back next time we're in Camden, or the next time, if you're local, the next time I need a gift, like I got a mug today, but I saw something that'll be perfect for when my mother-in-law's birthday is next month.
Right.
And I want people to think, to keep it unique. Yeah, we just have to keep like finding things that are just, being unique gets harder with time because of how, probably because of the internet and how easy it is to explore everything at our fingertips. So yeah, we just have to keep finding vendors and makers who are doing something just a little bit different, or just taking an item that's kind of common but putting their own spin on it.
Right. Don't give me any secret sauce again away, but how do you find, do you go to many trade shows, or do people come to you?
It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like trade shows are having not a crisis, but a revolution, or there's, something going on in the trade show world where it's not quite what it used to be, I think, because of the internet.
Right. Well, it's hard. So we go to trade shows.
Yeah.
And we came in after people only went like in the 90s. They ordered everything for the year at the trade shows. Yes. This is like, so people and like people like us, that's when we got all our orders for the year. We never were a part of that. We came in when they were kind of dying.
Phasing out.
But
just
we've even seen them.
Yeah.
But now I'd say if the trade shows are doing things well, intentional, and really courting people well, if they're doing things well, like there's still some great trade shows to be had. And I love when people think they kind of bail on a trade show, because there's still a lot to be had as far as good buyers showing up and also good vendors that will come and go, and like somebody leaves, that's a great spot for us to come to. And I think people are starting to, and I'm definitely hoping, but I see that too. People like understand the value of all of our best buyers, or a lot of our, like most of our best buyers come and they get stuff in their hands.
Yeah. And it's so important.
Yeah.
To be able to see and touch things, because one thing I've noticed also from having an art gallery is 2D online. Some things look much better than they do in person, but the opposite can happen too, where something you would pass over just looking at it on a screen, when you see it in person, it's like, oh, this is fabulous.
Feel the weight of it.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, I think the way to do it these days is a little bit of everything. So scouring online, Instagram, the online sales platforms, but also getting out there and seeing things, and being open to finding things where even when you aren't necessarily on like a buying trip or something.
Right. Yeah. This is how I should have started the podcast. Well, no, this is a good story to tell now. So when we first got going, the rope company, I can't remember if we had any sales before we went to our first trade show. But we went to our first trade show right here in Maine, New England Products Trade Show.
Oh yeah, I still do that one.
And that'd be a great fit. Yeah. And so we got some orders there, and then I went on the road. Right, I just was walking around, and so where should I go? I live right here. I go to Camden, Maine. If there's nobody in Camden, Maine, so I walked around Camden. And I'm like, who do we want to partner with the most? And then I was like, Once a Tree is definitely the place. Yeah. And I walked in. I think Bernice was there. I think it was actually, it was Bernice I was talking to. So I went in, and I can't remember what I did. I had no skills of any kind at that point. And I just said, here, I'm looking at the rope company, or, just said a little something, and, I totally understand everybody's very busy, and they have tons of products and a lot of money already spent. Like, so she just, just not interested or something like that. And I think I went in again. Maybe
Bold.
got the same kind of response. But then I went in for a third time, literally that day. I don't think I'd ever do that again now. and Bernice was just she was super sweet every time. Maybe it was somebody else the second time, but I know I went in 3 times.
Wow.
I think it was the same day. And she was like, all right, I'll give you guys.
Wow.
And
persistence.
I can't
off.
remember if I just brought a doormat in the third time or what, but she was super awesome every interaction. And if I was probably would have been like, hey, you're not getting the message here. Like, I don't want to talk to you. But and then you guys just did really well for so long.
Your products are great. People love your mats. My parents actually have had one for years before I even owned the store.
Oh, great.
They've had the same one, and it still looks amazing on their front steps. So yeah, you guys make a good product.
So yeah, so you must have some people come in like that.
Oh yeah, and I try to, some things, it's really easy.
Must be hard to make time.
It is hard to make time, and I do appreciate when people are aware of, like, some people do not have that skill and they're oblivious to how busy we are.
And I've done that before.
Some people are aware, and I think I take that into account and I value it. And I will say, if it's just so obviously not the right fit, that's pretty easy.
Yeah,
it's very easy to give people positive feedback, but also say, not for us, but I'm sure you'll find it's when
try this guy down the road.
Yeah, it's the hardest time is when it's something that I'm like, oh, like I really am not. I'm on the fence.
Yeah.
And then, so if I do end up saying no, it feels worse because, I was tempted and then said no. It feels like more insulting or, and I'll try to always give people a reason that is helpful to them to know why I ended up saying no.
That's very nice.
And I often sense how nervous people are. So I hate to make anyone feel bad because they're putting themselves out there and it's not easy. And sometimes it just comes down to the timing just wasn't right. And I'll try to always like follow people on Instagram or kind of keep an eye on them, but also, support them in the tiniest way I can. But yeah, it can be hard.
That's
it can be really
nice.
hard.
Not everybody is like that, Yeah,
and nice I try not to string anybody along. So, if it's...
Yeah, you're not doing them any favors.
No.
Yeah.
And they can certainly probably find another outlet if Once a Tree is not right.
Right.
But yeah, I always feel really bad when it's like, I sometimes do ask people to, we've talked and I'm like, well, it would really help if I can see your product.
Right.
And then they bring their product in and for whatever reason, seeing it, I'm like, oh, I don't think it's quite right. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Well, you have a great emotional intelligence and you care for people. So that's great. Not everybody will think of all those different things. It's just like, hey, no.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've had a lot of those, but I think sometimes people are almost like, just like offended, or I think probably that's normal when you're not used to. Now I haven't been on the road a lot, but lately. But if I'm teaching somebody or what, it's just like I've stayed in a store like an hour before because it's just so busy in there.
Yeah, and you're waiting,
and I'm just like I'm not here to bother them.
Right.
Like, they're doing their thing.
Right.
Like I am not here to swoop in and be like, hey.
Yeah.
Buy our stuff. I'll only stay there though if I think it's like the amazing fit. I've thoroughly looked it over and but that's cool. So we've talked a lot about Once a Tree. Do you have anything else you want to share about Once a Tree?
Of course, like I'm thinking of all these amazing vendors that I haven't mentioned today, but we just have so many great things, and I feel proud, feel pride to own the store. It wasn't my store that I came up with, but I really do think it's a great store, and I enjoy going in there every day. So yeah, I could rattle off all my favorite things, but it would just be probably pretty boring. So.
Right. Well, it came into your hands. You got there. So now I'd love to hear. Usually I kind of start with people's stories. I would love to hear just kind of Liz's story a little bit. But you've shared a lot. So you don't have to go over everything again, but so you kind of, you grew up in Camden.
Yes.
You went to Camden High School.
I did.
I'm assuming.
Yep.
And then what? And what's between that and the gallery? And
yeah, so I mean,
where'd you get your passions from and inspiration, things like that?
Probably a combination of my parents. I definitely have more of the business mind. Like my mom, she really enjoyed owning a business and all the, even the bookkeeping, the kind of more tedious stuff. And
you like that part?
I do. Yeah, no, I do.
I wish I had that.
Yeah.
To have a good skill, you have to have enjoyment in it.
Yeah.
And so you like details.
I do. That's like
why
details.
You're picking things out.
And then the more visual part, it probably comes from my dad. But I didn't know I would, like I said, I didn't want to take over their gallery just because it was expected of me, or I couldn't think of anything better to do. So I really had to take my time, and they were, I guess, very patient. But yeah, I left Camden when I graduated high school, and it's kind of a long story, but I ended up finishing college.
Tell it all, we're here, yeah.
I ended up...
Anything else?
I started college in the Midwest, and really just the Midwest was not the right fit for me. I just missed the ocean, met some really awesome people, but I just could not see myself. I just did not enjoy being landlocked in the Midwest, and that is how I just felt. I just felt so landlocked. And the people I was meeting and really enjoying were, it felt like probably going to end up in Chicago or the Midwest. And I just thought, this is not where I want to be. So I left school there and drove cross country with a friend. And we went to San Diego, California. And then I started applying to schools for transferring. And I ended up getting into UC Berkeley. So I moved up to Berkeley and finished school there. It's a little more complicated than that, but
what did you go to school for?
I have an English degree.
Okay.
And then I applied for a master's program at USF, which is in San Francisco, and have a master's in writing. So I don't use my degrees, but
probably more use them more than you.
Yeah.
think.
I mean, being able to write you're never going to regret being able to write well or
no, you are not.
Convey yourself on paper.
I wish I had done that. I was a construction management.
Oh, that's actually sounds interesting.
And I got a few minors, but I actually really enjoyed surveying, like all the math. I like being out in the woods and the boundary things. The law is actually, which I don't love. I'm not saying I'm a rebel. Like I don't love laws, but the lawyer language and all the. But boundary law is really cool. It's just really old. Most of it's super old. Like
and
you have to go to.
Really enjoy chatting with you about that. Really? Well, because he's an engineer and does surveys and is constantly doing permits,
engineer, yeah,
and that kind of stuff.
Right. Cool. So anyway, you're at Berkeley.
Yeah, and then I stayed in California a bit longer to do the master's program. And always enjoyed traveling as well through those years. And then, but I always felt like Maine was kind of calling me back. But again, I just didn't want to move back too soon. I wanted to be really sure about my decision to move back to Maine, especially Camden, because it is, a small town. And I wanted to make sure I would be, not that I couldn't have made a change again if I did that, but I really wanted it to feel right. And so I did wait until I felt like it did. And then, like I said, I think it was 2008, I moved back and started working toward taking over the gallery. Took a little longer than I think we originally thought, because I ended up having my first child in just a year later in 2009. And so starting my family I'm really glad it all happened the way it did. But that was definitely, if I had made the timeline myself, it would have been more like
it would have been different.
Like I don't know, as you can tell, I kind of like to organize, so it was just very much
that's right. Yeah, geez, this wasn't the plan.
But it worked out well.
I wouldn't say I'm organized, but I am like, this is the plan, and then okay, this is different. Like I can, but I'm like, I have to pause. Like, give me a minute here.
And it all worked out great.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
My husband and I ended up having a second kid, and we're so happy to be raising our kids in Camden. And
where did you meet him?
Well, he's from Camden as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we weren't together all those years, but we were friends we've always been friends since he moved to Camden. So,
when did you make the move, I guess, or how did you? this from California?
That was 2008.
Oh,
so
that's
I
right. You
finished
just said that.
I finished my master's program in 2007.
You were ready at that point.
And then I waited a year, traveled, worked, and I even applied for jobs just to see if I found something I really loved out there before moving back. But it really, like I said, I just always felt like Maine was so far away because it is from California.
Yeah, right.
And if I could make the map of the country, I'd put Maine and California right next to each other, so they'd be easy to flow back and forth from coast to coast. But that's not how it works.
Right.
So yeah.
So yeah, you came up. So the gallery.
Mm-hmm.
So I had thought when I first talked. So the gallery. Did you guys actually do a lot of framing there?
Yeah,
too?
it was a gallery. It still is a gallery and frame shop.
But you called it a gallery first.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we just always called it a gallery, but it is very much a frame shop too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what is the most important things about owning a gallery? Like, what's it like at a?
So owning a gallery is great because you're around art all day and talking about art all day, and helping people find art that they're really excited about.
Yeah.
And so that part's great. Framing is also awesome. It's a craft. It's, I really still enjoy getting things framed because I think it's a pretty fun process, and the right frame can totally change a piece of art, and it's protecting it too. But it is stressful because people are spending quite a bit of money,
right?
And it's hard to make those decisions when you're only seeing like a corner of it,
right?
So you do have to. I mean, I always enjoyed having framing customers and helping them, guiding them to what I think will be like the right decisions, knowing what they want. But it can be very stressful because so many times it's something personal. People would become emotional in the frame shop. I can't even count the number of times.
Really?
Someone was bringing in something they had such an emotional attachment to for one reason or another. And it led to, a moment of emotion and, or, you're doing something that's very fun and people are often bringing in stuff from their travels. But it can be nerve-wracking to, when something is truly a one-of-a-kind. And, like if something happened, you can't even put a price tag on it. It's
right.
like, it's sentimental and priceless. But I mean, that said, like with anything, probably like working in the ER, you get used to that kind of risk.
Right.
And
that's true.
Things will.
And that's why they come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this person's confident with the.
Yeah. So you don't really let that. But it's great that she thought of that ahead of time because
she always does.
Because it is a consideration that I think most people do not consider.
So did you actually do the frames?
So I do know how to frame, but I would more often than not, if I was doing any framing, it was pieces for the gallery.
Yeah.
Some more basics. We had a couple of framers that had lots of experience.
Yeah.
That could do the more elaborate or the more valuable or the more complicated pieces.
Must be hard to find those types of people.
Yeah. I mean, it really is it's very, it takes skill and, it's something that you benefit from experience too. It's hard to, it's like one of those industries where you don't know what you don't know until you start doing it.
Get into it.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part about owning the gallery and being a part of it? And
well, probably, I mean, some of what I like about Once a Tree, talking to people, and I really enjoy, one thing about owning your own business is you can kind of, I mean, there's always so much to do. You're wearing so many hats that, if I'm planning my week, it's like, well, you're like, what do I have to do? And then what am I like kind of in the mood to focus on? Like, am I in the mood to sit at my computer and get some like tedious stuff out of the way? Or am I in the mood to go down to the space and like tweak displays and be creative? So both, I really enjoy that about owning a business, especially one that has a visual aspect to it, I guess. And then I think it's really just the people I miss from the gallery, but luckily I'm not too hard to find up at Once a Tree, same town. So I don't feel like I've totally lost connection.
Right. Right. Well, so what we probably already talked about it some, but is there any other, like, what's the biggest challenges from owning a gallery? Is it the same as owning anything, or is it?
Unlike some products maybe that we sell at One Street, it is, why does one artist get a certain price for their
Right.
artwork
Mm-hmm.
when it's the exact same size, the same medium, the same image sometimes as another artist?
Mm.
So it can be hard to, you definitely get people at a gallery coming through the door that don't think that will challenge the values
Sure.
of things.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't always have to give those people justification, but if you want to, it can be hard to, there's a lot to art. Like, I mean, it really is true. Like, why does something hold more value than something else? And like, is it, there's a lot that goes into it. So that can be hard sometimes. I mean, I sometimes like Once a Tree because it's like, there's pretty good, like, there's a reason why something costs what it costs.
Right.
Without
The
that
price
kind
points
of like
make sense pretty
more
quickly.
vague. Yeah, without some of that vague, like, well, this person has a reputation.
Well, that's the thing.
And
Yeah,
they
with
have a
art, it's
fan
just like, it's
base.
basically like kind of their brand and their name building up.
And their signature
Mhm.
and all their years of skill
Mm-hmm.
make this particular painting $1,000.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's that.
Well, what was the key in the gallery? Was it getting the right artist? So was it usually an artist would have some things there and then you sell that and pay the artist, or you'd buy the art and then sell it? How did that kind of usually work?
Yeah, the gallery was a mix of consignment and wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
More so than Once a Tree. Once a Tree, we have a few consignment
Mm-hmm.
people, but not many.
Yeah. We don't do, we have a hard time with consignment. Is just like book admin wise.
Yeah.
It's just so hard.
It can be tedious.
For everybody.
Yeah.
So we just don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't want it to be, it's just as hard for the other person as it is
Yeah,
for
totally.
us. So.
Keeping track.
But no, galleries can be more of that. That's why I asked.
Well, because if something doesn't sell, an original piece of art, the nice thing about consignment is it could be a beautiful painting. It's just not the right gallery for it. And so that gives the artist the freedom to say, like, hey, you had this piece for summer of 2024. It didn't sell. I think it's going to be great in Booth Bay next year.
Right.
And then your clientele is seeing something different. We would almost never, if an original didn't sell after one season, it was time to trade it out.
Really? Okay.
Prints you can show from year to year, but you would want a fresh selection of originals.
Sure. Yeah. What inspires you now, like to keep doing what you're doing, and where you get your like passion, like what's your why for showing up?
I really enjoy working with my staff, so that's a why for showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy the customers, obviously, too. And then I like just continuing to tweak the store. I love that it's already a great store, but I loved continuing to think how we can make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And then the web, this winter I'm hoping to revamp the website a bit because I think it could be freshened up. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that and already starting to think about that. So yeah. And I mean, I do feel like, in a bigger picture, I care about how Camden, how Camden is perceived as a town. And so I like contributing to, I hope, what is a positive perception of Camden as a whole. So I like to be somewhere that people can rely on. We're a year-round business, 7 days a week. And we honestly are proud to tell people that.
That's huge in a small town Maine.
Yeah, we like to be contributing to the vibrancy of our town all year. I guess those are my whys.
That's really neat. Yeah. So what do you think when people come to Camden? What do they love about it?
Well, I think it's so beautiful.
Yes.
The mountains and where the mountains meet the sea.
It is really.
And I think people think it's so very picturesque. And I think people think it's charming and friendly. And hopefully they're doing more than just scratching the surface.
Just like your
hopefully,
store.
Yeah. Hopefully they're getting out and like realizing how much they can do when they're in Camden, like hikes and sails and seeing the cows and seeing the lake.
Right.
So hopefully they're getting a feel for the whole piece. And
is that kind of what you hear the most in the store? If somebody, oh, geez, I just love because
yeah. We often hear that people wish they had more time. Like maybe they're just passing through. And, we're always like, well, come back,
Right. Yeah. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember you guys do some trips as a family or whatever. What's your favorite kind of Maine adventure you guys have been on so far?
Maine adventure. Well, my older son and I hiked Katahdin 2 summers ago, and we actually want to do it again next summer.
Oh.
You have to really plan ahead if you want to camp in the park.
Did you camp?
We did at Chimney Pond, which is you hike in to Chimney Pond 3.5 miles and then go up.
Okay.
But you really have to plan ahead. I tried to pull something together more last minute this summer, and it did not work. And so I'm kind of excited to do that again. That was super memorable with him. I had done it before, but it had been years. And then my younger son loves to go down to Old Orchard Beach. And I kind of feel like I'm on vacation there, and it's only like, an hour and 45 minutes away.
Right.
But I can kind of get into, for one night, get into that like vacation vibe.
Right.
And then we love going out on the ocean. There's like, I think the perfect day for me is going out to an island, hopping off and treasure hunting and just walking around the island and picnicking.
Do you guys have a boat?
We do, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
So
I want to ask you your favorite islands. I'll leave those. So treasure hunting, is that just like on the beaches? Yeah.
Stones.
Yeah. Yeah, when you have the boat, you have the good access. Yeah, that's same things. I remember one time we went to Vinyl Haven on the ferry.
Oh, that's fun too, taking the ferry.
Yeah, and I can just remember like coming back and I was carrying his bags. I'm like, "What do you have in here? Rocks?"
Yes.
Yeah.
He did.
Yes, I have rocks in there. I'm like, oh man,
my kids are always bringing home rocks and sticks.
Yeah. So one question I love to ask everybody too is, can you just take a second and think of like, it could be something from your store, probably is, but like your favorite household item, something you use every day, could be some old thing passed down or whatever. It's just something you use every day that you just really love. You look forward to using it. You're just like, yes, like I love this item.
So I did think ahead on this question because I heard you ask.
Okay, great, yeah.
But I missed the everyday part, so I gave it a little.
You
thought.
don't have to be every day. Anything comes.
Well,
up.
so I wanted to tell you, before I even knew I was going to buy the store, Bernice, the old owner, was at my bridal shower, and she gave us an absolutely gorgeous ambrosia maple salad bowl. It's big. And so it's not every day because when you make it, make a salad and it's a big salad. But I just got it out. My parents came over for dinner last week. And so I'm like one of those people that like, we also have like a nice china set and I will, give me any excuse and I will
you look forward
that
to
stuff.
That. Okay.
Yeah. So any even slightly special occasion, I'm getting that stuff out. And so the salad bowl, I love getting it out of the cabinet because, well, first of all, I love that it's a big, beautiful bowl that I wouldn't have bought myself because, some of those bowls are expensive. But I think of Bernice when I use it. I think of where I was in my life, not knowing that I would end up owning the store it came from.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful wood. And then, so I just really enjoy when we're done using it, washing it, drying it, putting it away. So I don't know if it's like my favorite item in our house, but I just thought that was...
I think that's great.
And then with, my boys, I love showing them that like, when my parents come over for dinner, even though we see my parents all the time, like we light candles and, kind of make it a little special just because we're not like a formal family, but, taking those times like just at home together, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And I want them to look back and be like, Mom was not afraid to take out the nice china, even though we were, rambunctious and
tradition and no, that's great. I find when people answer those questions, it's always like a story with like other people involved,
right?
and it functions really well.
Yeah,
Basically, it's just,
yeah.
just special.
And
Yeah.
this bowl does. It looks as good now as it did when she gave it to us. And
Mhm.
so, I love thinking about the fact that at my store every day, people are shopping for those kind of things. And
Mhm.
15 years from now, someone's going to be feeling what I feel when they use it.
Mhm. That's great. Well, thanks for everything, Liz. So,
Yeah, thank you.
speaking of that, so where can people find
Yes.
Once a Tree and everything? How can they
Sure.
reach out? All those good things.
So we are at 31 Main Street in Camden. Like I said, we're year-round, 7 days a week. We also have a website that's shoppable at onceatree.net.
.net.
We're on Instagram and Facebook. And then we're always super helpful if people email or call us too. If a lot of times we'll field calls that was like, we saw this item in your store this summer, and they, are vague on a couple details, and we hone right into it for them. So
Can they buy that over the phone or go to your website and then you ship it to them?
Yep.
Gift wrapped and all that
Yes,
good stuff?
yeah, we
Wow.
ship almost every day things out, and we are always happy to ship directly to a gift recipient, recipient of a
Right.
gift, or we can ship it to you gift wrapped, ready to give.
Right. Or I'm sure when people come in the store and say, "Hey, I'm on vacation. Can you ship this back?"
Oh
home
yeah,
for
yeah.
me?"
That's
that
most
must
of
be
our
really-
shipping.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much,
And
Logan.
we really appreciate having you, and I can't wait to go back to Once a Tree again.
All
I'm
right,
excited.
yeah, we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.